I've watched a lot of Naruto, I know the story well, and I've watched Boruto much less, which is Naruto's new saga, talking about his son and showing Naruto as the village's Hokage after so many years since the end of Naruto Shippuden. It's strange to say this is a spoiler. Throughout this journey, there are really interesting lessons about the process of achieving the goal we have been seeking our entire lives. Naruto was much happier while trying to be Hokage than now, when he actually became the leader of Konoha. I don't know if you know a book called The Missing Piece. The book is a short story about the feeling of emptiness when you achieve a goal. It's the story of a circle that was missing a piece and goes around looking for that piece. He finds some random pieces that don't fit well, but in a moment he finds a piece that fits perfectly. When he finds this piece, he realizes that being complete isn't so good, so he leaves it behind and goes back to trying to find a piece that completes him. I read this book in the bookstore and remembered the Naruto video, thinking about the effect that lack has. How many times we miss missing and how many times we plan happiness in something we don't have. Once we reach that goal, we realize that we are still missing something that we were made to keep searching for. And once we find what we were looking for, we realize that the discomfort and emptiness inside are still there. We place pleasure and happiness in something that, once found, does not give us the joy we seek so much. We spend our lives prospecting happiness in goals, in the things we lack, prospecting happiness in getting there. But when we arrive, we discover that there is no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I remember a poem I wrote when I was 13 years old. I was a teenager and it was supposed to be a song, and if you forgive a poem by a teenager, it says, "Here comes the butterfly, full of your beauty. Poor butterfly, cry the caterpillar time, dreaming of being a butterfly." Even with spelling mistakes, because it is a childish way of saying butterfly, it has its complete beauty. And because it is complete and has reached the maximum of its beauty, it mourns the time when it was a caterpillar. Because as a caterpillar, he dreamed of becoming a butterfly, he dreamed of a superior beauty like the one he achieved. Reality is not always like fantasy, and often the dream that is achieved is not like the dream dreamed. We imagine that we will be happy when we grow up, and we grow up and happiness doesn't come because we don't grow up as we imagined. We dream that we will be happy when we have a lot of money, when we get married, when we buy our own house, when we take that trip to Paris, when we publish books with our names on it, when we have 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, or 50,000, or 100,000, 200,000, or 1 million, when we become famous or recognized for what we do. We always put satisfaction and happiness one step ahead, and with every step we take, happiness is one step ahead. When people are adults or grown up, they are already what they should be, and there is no way to dream of becoming something different. There isn't much life ahead of them, so they just dream of their childhood days, when they could dream and become whatever they wanted as adults. In the end, we are like Heath Ledger's Joker, like dogs chasing cars. If we reach it, we won't know what to do. Do you understand Lacan's theory? Fantasies need to be unreal because the instant you have what you're looking for, you give up. You won't want it anymore. To continue existing, desire needs to have its object eternally absent. It's not the thing you want, it's the fantasy of having it. So desire sustains impossible fantasies. This was Pascal's reference saying that we are truly happy only when we daydream about future happiness. That killing, or being careful about what you desire, is not because we will achieve it, but unfortunately, we will not want it when we achieve it. So Lacan's lesson is, living for your desires will never bring happiness. Complete is striving to live by ideas and ideals, and not measuring your life by what you have achieved in relation to your desires, but by those small moments of integrity, compassion, rationality, or even self-sacrifice. Because in the end, the only way to measure the meaning of our lives is by valuing each other's lives. It seems that emptiness is part of who we are. It will never be satisfied because the emptiness of the human being is cosmic, transcendental, the size of the universe and expanding. It's a void the size of God. Maybe that's why human beings are a factory of new religions and the hearts of men are a factory of idols, and constantly prospect religious thoughts about the things of this life. C.S. Lewis wrote in Mere Christianity, creatures are not born with desires unless the satisfaction of those desires exists. A baby feels hunger, well, there is such a thing as food. A duckling wants to swim, well, there is such a thing as water. Men feel sexual desire, well, there is such a thing as sex. If I find in myself a desire that no experience in this world can satisfy, the most likely explanation is that I was made for another world. If none of my earthly pleasures satisfy it, that does not prove that the universe is a fraud. Probably earthly pleasures were never meant to satisfy it. If our emptiness is not satisfied by the things we achieve in external circumstances, then the only answer is an inner transformation, an inner change that moves those who are in contact with the circumstances. If when we try to change things around us we cannot find a solution to the cosmic void, then the solution is to change something that is not around us, but within us. Change who we are and understand that happiness is inside and not outside. Of course, happiness is influenced by circumstances. It's hard to be happy in a concentration camp, but it's much more influenced by the things you create when you look at the world. In the end, your happiness is your responsibility. It's not something that changes how you lift your arm. Hearing "be happy" doesn't change much if you don't take responsibility for your own happiness. How can your feelings change? Will you just be a victim of circumstances, or will you take on the responsibility of being someone who, regardless of where you live or how you live, has already found happiness? I found something to fill my void. If my emptiness is cosmic, its solution must be cosmic and transcendental. Perhaps a sad thing about today's social outlook is that humanity projects its pain onto social causes. Its suffering is because of a patriarchal society, its suffering is because of a sexist society, its suffering is because of a money economy. Marketplace. When our suffering is because we are fallen human beings in a sinful world. We are all fighting against emptiness. It is that famous God-sized hole that is inside us. It is at the beginning of session 7 of his thoughts that Blaise Pascal said, "All men seek happiness." This is without exception. Whatever different means they employ, they all tend to that end. The cause of some going to war and of others to avoid it is the same desire in both. And yet, after a great number of years, none without faith have reached the point to which all continually look, princes and subjects, nobles and commoners, old and old, young, strong and weak, learned and ignorant, healthy and sick, of all countries, all times, all ages, and all conditions. A trial so long, so continuous, and so uniform, should certainly convince us of our inability to achieve good by our own efforts. But example does not teach us much. Therefore we wish that our hope should not be disappointed this time as before, and while the present never satisfies us, experience deceives us, and from misfortune to misfortune we lead to its death. Eternal crown. What then does this desire and this inability proclaim to us, if not that once there was in man a true happiness of which now only the mark and the empty trace remain, which he tries in vain to fill with everything around him, searching in things absent the help that he does not find in present things? But all these are inadequate because the infinite abyss can only be filled by an infinite and immutable object, that is, only by God himself. I found my fullness. I no longer dream of times gone by, when I could dream of being a better person. Because, no matter the circumstances, I have been filled by the Spirit of Christ, by the love of the living God, and he is greater than any void in my soul. I have goals, there are things I would like to achieve. But I don't miss the lack that lack does. Christ is big enough to fill everything. What you express is a deep understanding of what many philosophers and theologians, such as Pascal and Lewis, have discussed about human nature and the never-ending search for meaning or fulfillment that goes beyond earthly achievements. This feeling of emptiness, this lack of missing, is something that many recognize as a powerful engine in the search for something transcendent. The analogy of Naruto, who is happier in pursuit than in achievement, illustrates this dilemma well. He, like many of us, found meaning in the journey, the desire, and the struggle. Upon reaching his goal, the expected fulfillment did not come, showing that true satisfaction is not necessarily in achieving goals, but in growth, effort, and experiences along the way. Similarly, Shel Silverstein's The Missing Piece illustrates the paradoxical nature of satisfaction. The incessant search for something we feel we lack can be more satisfying than the achievement itself. What you describe is a recognition that human emptiness is profound and that, as C.S. Lewis suggests, perhaps it indicates that we were made for something beyond this world. Inner transformation and recognition of a source of transcendent satisfaction, such as the faith in Christ you mention, can offer an answer to existential emptiness. The idea that only something cosmic can fill a cosmic void is a spiritual answer that many have found meaningful. His reflection points to the need to find a greater purpose and happiness that does not depend only on external achievements, but on internal transformation and a connection with something greater than ourselves. This resonates deeply with philosophy and theology that explore the meaning of life and the search for true happiness. If you like the content and want to help us continue, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment or suggestion about a book, film, series, anime that you want to see analyzed on the channel.